Taoiseach, I note that you have said in the past that the report was worthwhile, and I agree insofar as it has shone a light on the way things really work in this country, the way the business elite can take themselves off to a Swiss resort for a boot camp and then not discuss what they really went away to discuss. And we end up with 7 years later, millions of public money later, with a report that says that this was not a solid or sound transaction. There are 37 additional transactions by IBRC with a net loss of over €10 million each to the state. And the question really is what's going to happen now. And I don't believe that anyone would want to see another 7 years per investigation with more millions per investigation. You have referred this, you say, to the revenue commissioners, to the central bank, etc., etc. My question to you now, is it not high time that the state found a process by which to investigate alleged miscarry-on of corporate dealings, of the potential of white-collar crime? Are the Gardaí not interested in this? Is corporate enforcement not the first place we should be going to? Can the DPP look at it, rather than spending years and millions on investigations of something which obviously stinks? Can we not go and use the system of justice that actually exists to investigate, particularly the 37 additional transactions that are being investigated, that should be investigated?
Well, in the first instance, the Commission of Inquiry is in itself a form of holding people to account. In fairness to the report, and look, the background in Ireland is we have a written constitution, people have legal rights, assumption of innocence, and so forth, and that creates a legal context which, it seems to me, makes all forms of inquiry very difficult. I'll just make that general point, and Deputy Patrick would be more, versed in the law than most here, but that is a fundamental problem we have. And sometimes, when I go back over the years, we've managed very quick investigations, some of them even non-statutory. I remember the Ferns inquiry into abuse in the Diocese of Ferns, which I initiated, and because of a very good senior counsel at the time, now a judge, George Birmingham, got through it in months to such a state that it was ready for a statutory, and it happened much more quickly, also because the Church cooperated 100% and handed over all the documentation in the new bishop that came in that time. So, and I remember other inquiries took an age, took 5 and 6 years. And the Commission of Investigation model was brought in to speed up the process in comparison to the original Tribunal of Inquiries Act and so on, because they were going on too long. So there is a fundamental issue that the Oireachtas needs to return to at some stage, or we need to consult on, in respect of, are there effective means to actually have inquiries that can be short, concise, and get to the point in terms of finding out what happened and what action should follow that then. In this case, there are very clear recommendations as to where it should go, and we have sent it to those bodies. And I wouldn't be of a view that they'll gather dust on a shelf, because I think what's in the report is quite substantial. And I don't want to prejudice anything that may happen, but there's quite considerable clarity brought to a lot of issues, particularly in relation to taxation, in relation to people not being kept informed, and so on. And so that's a matter of, certainly for the Director of Corporate Enforcement, but also revenue and so on. It's a matter for them now. They won't necessarily be coming back to me. They will now deal with the individuals concerned. And to be fair, it was the opposition, and I was in the opposition at the time, who sought this inquiry from the government of the day. We can't accuse the government of the day of politically shelving it, because we all met, all the leaders met, and Deputy Murphy will remember that, in the then Taoiseach and Kennedy's room. And we actually then agreed we develop new legislation, because this legislation was bespoke legislation. It's legislation above and beyond the original Commission of Investigation legislation, because the judge had come back and said he needed additional powers, because of course the judge here faced potential legal challenges all along the way in respect of the progression of this report. I actually believe we should go back to first principles, and I think the existing investigatory and regulatory framework that we have should be our first port of call in respect of investigating white-collar crime or any, not saying, I'm just saying generally now here, my comments aren't just in the context of site service, a more general point I would make, that Gardaí has to have stronger units, and they are developing stronger teams in terms of fraud. The Director of Corporate Enforcement, that needs to happen and is happening in terms of additional resources. And then right across the board, all the various regulatory organisations, in my view, should be far more proactive. What tends to happen is the first port of call is we all in the House, and we're all a bit sort of guilty here too, we just call for a commission. And it's the easiest thing to call for and to put down a motion on. And now, it can take 7 years. It's too long. So it's not satisfactory. And there had been, in the past, this was looked at by the Law Reform Commission in 2005, report public inquiries, including tribunals of inquiry, and it listed some advantage of a permanent inquiries office, for example. Would we establish a permanent inquiries office? Over time, its staff would become experienced in investigations, would be paid salaries rather than a daily rate, thus resulting in savings. The office would have easy access to precedents and guidance on procedural issues and provide a one-stop shop for those seeking information. However, it also listed disadvantages. Although there are a number of inquiries at present, there is no guarantee that there will be need for similar bodies in the future. Public inquiries are ad hoc bodies by their nature. Their structure and personnel should reflect this. You do need certain situations, demand certain types of inquiries. And of course, I have no doubt if we had a permanent office of inquiries, it would be inundated in short time by this House. No judgments made, but that would happen too. Everybody would want inquiries to be. And you'd be in a kind of a GSOC situation. I don't like always talking about, but I get the sense that GSOC, they have hundreds of inquiries to go through, and people don't seem to get satisfaction in terms of timely responses. Sorry, last time I done a bit there, but I'm trying to get to the nut of what people are saying.